Have you heard this story? It begins on a rain-swept evening in the forgotten marshlands of Grey Whisper County, where fog drifted so thickly across the flooded fields that even the crows refused to fly. Elena Ward tightened her coat as she trudged along the crooked wooden path leading to the abandoned signal tower. The air tasted metallic, like the first shot before lightning strikes, and every step echoed with a hollow thud that made her heartbeat speed up. She kept telling herself she wasn't afraid, though the tremor in her breath betrayed her. It's just a folklore assignment, she thought. Nothing more. Yet the stories she'd uncovered all pointed to the same place, an outpost where a lone operator supposedly vanished after tracking voices on frequencies that didn't exist. As she drew closer, the tower loomed like a rusted skeleton against the ink-black sky. Wind slid between its metal ribs with a moaning sound that felt almost deliberate. Elena swallowed hard. If the stories are fake, I'll be back home by sunrise. If they're real, well, then I'll have the interview of a lifetime. The door groaned open at her touch. Inside, dust spiraled in the beam of her flashlight. The walls were lined with peeling charts, dials, and brittle logbooks. A faint buzz crackled from an unplugged radio, impossible, yet undeniable. Elena approached slowly, her pulse hammering in her ears. The static shifted, deepened, forming a pattern like breathing. Then a voice broke through, ragged, distant, terrified. "Don't come!" Her stomach tightened. Someone's here. Someone needs help. The signal warped, rising into a shriek that drilled straight through her skull. She staggered back, knocking over a stool. The room vibrated as if invisible hands shook its foundations. Then the lights, dead for decades, flared on with scorching brilliance. Shadows twisted across the walls, stretching too long and too thin, like creatures crawling toward her. Elena bolted up the metal stairs to the top chamber. The storm raged around her, thunder cracking like cannon fire. The upper room was circular, glass shattered in jagged teeth around the windows. In the center stood a massive transmitter, dormant yet humming. She reached toward its controls, but her fingers froze. Behind the glass, shapes moved in the fog, tall silhouettes, flickering like projections. Their heads twitched in unnatural jerks, turning toward her with sudden unity. "No," she whispered. "Those aren't people." The radio at her hip burst alive again, this time whispering her name. Her name. Elena stumbled back as the silhouettes pressed closer, their forms dissolving and reforming like living static. The transmitter pulsed. The tower shuddered. And then everything went black. Elena awoke lying on cold metal grating, the storm now muted as though the world outside had been wrapped in thick cloth. A dull ache throbbed behind her eyes. She rose slowly, scanning the room. The transmitter lights still glowed unnaturally bright, but the silhouettes outside had vanished, replaced by unmoving curtains of fog. What happened? How long was I unconscious? Her watch had stopped. Descending the stairs, she realized the air had changed. The earlier metallic tang had deepened into something rotten, like old seawater trapped in a cavern. The floorboards creaked beneath her feet, echoing far too loudly in the small room. She aimed her flashlight toward the open doorway and froze. The marsh was gone. Instead stretched a barren plain of cracked white clay beneath a sky swirling with bruised purple clouds. A dry wind hissed past her, carrying whispers she couldn't decipher. "This isn't real," she muttered. "I'm hallucinating." But her feet sank into the clay with each step, leaving solid footprints. The tower behind her looked identical, rusted, crooked, but utterly alone in this dead landscape. The transmitter did this. Pulled me somewhere. Or some thing pulled me. Fear clawed at her throat, yet curiosity pushed her forward. She needed answers. A faint rhythmic sound drifted from beyond a ridge, like steady drumming. She climbed a slope, each breath sharp in her chest. On the other side lay a valley filled with hundreds of tall poles adorned with cloth strips. They fluttered without wind, as if stirred by unseen hands. A lone figure stood among them, tall, draped in shredded gray fabric, face covered by an oval mask etched with spirals. Elena hesitated. "Hey! Can you hear me?" Her voice carried unnaturally far, echoing back distorted. The figure turned its head. The masked spirals seemed to move. A cold dread washed through her. Yet the figure raised an arm, not threatening, but summoning. Against her better judgment, Elena descended into the valley. As she approached, the drumming intensified, vibrating her bones. The masked figure tilted its head and spoke in a voice both whisper and roar. "The tower bridges worlds, Seeker. You have opened what should remain sealed." Elena's fear flared. "I didn't open anything. I just came for research." The spiral mask glowed faintly. "Your presence is enough. They have sensed you." "Who?" The sky above darkened, clouds nodding into a vortex. Shadows spilled across the ground like spilled ink. The poles trembled. The figure stepped closer. "Run," it said, "before the echoed ones find you." Elena spun around. Rising over the ridge came the silhouettes, hundreds now, glitching, contorting, their outlines stuttering like corrupted footage. Their movements synced with the drumming rhythm. And they were fast. Elena sprinted toward the distant tower, lungs burning, clay cracking beneath her boots. The silhouettes gained rapidly, voices merging into a single jagged shriek. Just as one reached for her shoulder, the tower's doorway flared with blinding light. She leapt inside, and the world inverted. Elena collapsed onto wet grass, gasping. Real grass. The marshlands were back, or so it seemed. The storm had passed, leaving the sky pale with dawn. Birds called from distant reeds. Yet something felt terribly wrong. The air was too still, too rehearsed. Is this really home? Or another layer of the same nightmare? She rose shakily and scanned the tree line. The tower loomed behind her, silent once more. The transmitter lights were off. A thin trail of smoke curled from its top, fading into the sky. It burned out? Or something forced it dark? She touched her backpack, relief washing through her fingers when she felt her recorder still inside. A splash made her whirl around. A boy, maybe 10, stood ankle-deep in the water, staring at her with wide, pale eyes. His clothes were old-fashioned, torn at the sleeves. Elena approached slowly. "Are you okay? Are you lost?" The boy's lips trembled. "You came back wrong." A chill knifed down her spine. "What does that mean?" He pointed toward the tower. "It doesn't let people go the same way they came." Before she could respond, the reeds behind him parted. A tall woman emerged, gaunt, her long hair dripping as though she had risen from a river. Her face was familiar, terrifyingly familiar. It was Elena. Or rather, a warped reflection of her, eyes too dark, posture too rigid. A perfect double, except for the faint static that shimmered around her edges. Elena stumbled back. "No! No, this isn't possible." The double stepped forward, voice smooth and wrong. "You walk between worlds. Now one must replace you." The boy bolted into the reeds. Elena turned to run, but her double moved with impossible speed, blocking her path. Adrenaline surged through Elena's veins. She grabbed a fallen branch and swung. The branch passed through the double as if through smoke, though the figure flickered, momentarily unstable. Elena sprinted toward the hill. The air warped around her double as it pursued, glitching like corrupted pixels. Elena reached the ridge and spotted a small boat tied at the riverbank. Without thinking, she dashed toward it. The double let out a shrill, metallic cry that split the air. Shapes rose from the grass, more silhouettes, closing in. Elena shoved the boat into the water and leapt inside. Her double reached the shore, hands stretching impossibly long toward her. The boat drifted away just in time. The river carried her through a corridor of leaning trees whose branches intertwined like skeletal fingers. Elena paddled with trembling hands. I have to get far enough away. Maybe the world resets when I leave the tower's radius. But halfway down the river, the water turned still, unnaturally still. Reflections on its surface began to distort, stretching into grotesque shapes. Something shifted beneath the boat, brushing against its underside with deliberate pressure. Elena froze. Then a pale hand broke the surface, gripping the edge of the boat. Another followed. Then a face, her face again, but drowned and lifeless, rose from below. Elena screamed. She fell backward as the drowned reflection lunged upward, water gushing into the boat. Elena kicked wildly, connecting with the cold visage. It dissolved into ripples, but the river around her now churned violently, as though dozens of unseen bodies writhed beneath the surface. The boat spun in dizzying circles. Trees blurred. The sky warbled like a melting film reel. Not real. Not real. But it feels real enough to kill me. A massive root arched over the river ahead, bridging the banks like a rib bone. Elena grabbed her chance. She leapt from the boat just as it overturned, grasping the slick bark. Water roared below her. She pulled herself onto the root, soaked and shaking. Branches rustled nearby. A figure stepped out, a man in a heavy coat, holding an oil lantern. His expression was wary but alive. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "They follow anything with a pulse." "Who are you?" Elena asked, breathless. "Name's Rafe. Been stuck in this echo place for months." His lantern cast trembling light on his weathered face. "The tower drags people in. Most don't last long." Elena swallowed hard. "I need to get back home." Rafe nodded grimly. "There's a way, but it's through the rift well. Not easy. And those things, your copies, they'll try to stop you. They want to replace who you were." A low hum vibrated through the trees. Elena stiffened. "They're coming." Rafe grabbed her arm. "Move!" They ran through the forest, branches clawing at their clothes. Flickering shapes darted between the trees, copy silhouettes, shifting and merging. Elena's heart pounded. Every shadow felt like fingers reaching for her. Rafe led her to a clearing where a massive stone well stood, covered in spirals like the masked figure's design. "The rift well," Rafe said. "Jump in before they close it. What's at the bottom? Your only exit." The hum intensified into a shriek. Copies poured into the clearing. Some wore Elena's face. Some Rafe's. Some no face at all. Their limbs bent at impossible angles as they advanced. Elena climbed onto the well's edge. The air above it shimmered like heated metal. Rafe shoved her. "Go!" She fell. Wind slammed past her as she plummeted through a tunnel of churning light. Voices screamed around her, not words, but raw, fractured echoes. Her body felt stretched, pulled, unraveling. Just when she thought her mind would split open, she stopped. Silence. Elena awoke on a cracked stone floor in a cavern lit by dim phosphorescent moss. The air was thick and heavy, vibrating faintly like a massive heart beating somewhere deep in the earth. She rose slowly, rubbing her aching temples. This must be the core, the center point between worlds. Ahead lay a massive gate of twisting metal, pulsing with an inner glow. As she approached, images flickered across its surface, her memories, distorted and looping, her childhood home, her parents' faces, her university dorm, the tower itself. But each frame was slightly wrong, as though someone had copied them without understanding their meaning. A voice echoed behind her. "You crossed too far to return unchanged." She turned. The masked figure stood at the cavern's entrance, spirals glowing with soft urgency. "You again," Elena said. "Why help me?" "Because the copies are not meant to roam freely. You carry their attention. Ending the bridge will free us all." "The gate," she said. "It leads home? If you close it—" Elena placed her hands on the cold metal. The surface rippled like liquid. Suddenly the cavern trembled. Copies materialized from the shadows, her own reflections, dozens of them, forms glitching as they crawled closer. Elena pushed against the gate. It resisted, humming violently. "Come on. Close. Close." Her muscles burned. The air crackled. One copy grabbed her wrist, cold, electric, invasive. She screamed and shoved harder. The masked figure raised its staff, striking the ground. A shockwave burst outward, knocking several copies back. "Now, Seeker!" Elena poured every ounce of her will into the gate. Images on its surface shattered like glass. A blinding light erupted, engulfing the cavern. Copies disintegrated into streaks of static. The masked figure bowed its head as its form dissolved into spirals of fading smoke. Elena felt herself pulled through the collapsing light and gasped awake on a grassy hillside under the gentle warmth of afternoon sun. Birds sang. The marsh was gone. The tower was gone. Her watch ticked normally. She was home. But as she lifted her recorder, she froze. On its surface was a perfect fingerprint, her fingerprint, but pressed in reverse, as though made by a mirrored version of her. In the distant breeze, a faint hum echoed. Familiar. Unsettling. Something had followed. Leave a like and subscribe, so it will be easier for us to continue releasing this kind of content.